Hello, so I'm back with another Cooking with History. Because the makeup video had that very precise description of women's makeup looking like their faces were covered with cheesecake or cheese curds, so we're going to be making an early modern cheesecake recipe. It is said that the cheesecake is a quintessential English dish, so something that's actually something that actually English people invented, and it is a very key part of understanding sort of Tudor and early modern dietary culture. Tudor diets, the way they ate, the things they ate, were very influenced by the four humours, as everything was, and it was believed that cheese curds or cheese, something with cheese in, sort of closed the stomach at the end of the meal and allowed the stomach to turn all your undigested food into blood that would nourish and replenish your body as part of humoral theory. So to eat cheese at the end of a meal, which we still do today, is the most healthy and beneficial thing. They didn't necessarily have dessert courses as we have now, but a cheesecake is a way to combine a lot of ingredients to make that sort of healthy end of meal dinner. So we're going to be looking at a genuine recipe. I think it's from 1675, so it is a little post-Tudor, but sort of within the right time frame. And this isn't the only recipe that we know of. The earliest cheesecake recipe is from the 13th century, the Book of Cookery, but this is the most complete one that I could find that didn't have absolutely, crazy ingredients like bone marrow and things like that. This is all reasonably locally sourced stuff from within the UK. So let's have a go. So the first and most important recipe, according to the accomplished lady's delight, is cheese curd. So in case you don't know what a cheese curd is, in the process of making cheese you add rennet to milk. Rennet, which is an enzyme that comes from cow stomach, although this is vegetarian rennet, so it's slightly better. The rennet begins to digest the milk and makes solids and water. Well, a liquid, it's not quite water, but the water is called whey, and the solids, which are sort of like baby cheese, they're in the process of becoming cheese, are the curds. So if you're... Focus. Imagine if you're in Canada, you're probably quite familiar with curds. This is from a local farm, well, at least the UK farm called Batch Farm. I tasted it beforehand. It tastes a bit like cheese strings. But that is the basis for our cheesecake. It is 2 quarts of curds. Obviously, the enterprising Tudor housewife would make her own. I wasn't gonna mess around with rennet particularly. I thought that would be not good for my house, and I wasn't quite sure how it was going to work out. So I'd rather just support a local farmer. Next ingredient, which you kind of see off stage, is a quart of thick cream, and this is so thick it doesn't want to come out of the jug. Oh, look how thick that is. It's kind of more like a clotted cream than anything else. Look at that. It's stuck to the spoon. Oh, this must have been extremely decadent and really only best eaten in spring when you've got the right season for milk. While cows can't have calves all year round, really, you only want to get milk from them at one point in the year, because otherwise you won't have enough for your calves. Let's scrape that off before I start eating it, which I shouldn't do, because I shouldn't be eating too much dairy. Oh, look how thick that is. Oh, thick, cheesy. It kind of looks like brains at the moment. Oh, that is a noise and a half. And the next part of the recipe is a pound of sweet butter. So I was a bit confused by what this meant. Sweet butter typically refers to what kind of milk and the salts used in the butter making process, I do believe. I could be wrong. but I checked and most butter in the UK is a sweet butter, which is better for baking. So we have, what is that? A pound of butter. These early modern people did not do any of their baking by halves. Oh, why didn't I get a better mixer? Look at that. Creamy, buttery mess. I am mixing off camera. I am not going to force you to watch me try and stir a pound of butter. The next ingredient, there's apparently this cheesecake is for feeding the 5,000. You can just see it off screen here. Is 12 whole eggs. Yep. 12, and let me pick this up extremely carefully. Oh, so again, I'm vegetarian myself, so I try to eat as little animal product anyway, but for the purposes of this experiment, so I'm just cleaning the egg off the table. For the purposes of this experiment, I tried to make sure I was at least getting the most reasonably sourced ones that I could, if that relieves anyone's guilt. So that's 12 whole eggs into this huge, giant, creamy, buttery, cheesy mix. Okay, so that's looking a lot better, a lot more like a more conventional sort of cheesecake mix rather than the cheese curd thing that it is. There's so much. Okay, the next stage is 1.5 pounds of currants. Shove them all in there, right in there. The former Cooking with History viewers will know that currants and raisins were a big part of my last pastry experiment, so it would be interesting to see, well, I suppose, why currants remain so favourite. Oh, of course, because you can dry them. You can dry them and you can keep them for a long time, that's why. So this is a perfect dish then for celebrating, well, I mean, this for us would be, I suppose, a good Christmas dish, but this is a perfect celebration of sort of the bounty of winter meeting the new bounty of spring. So all those currants just right on in there. Lovely. So the next stage is very important. It's adding flavour to the mix, because those early moderns, they really love their spices. So what we have now, what's interesting is when you look at early modern recipes, they're very vague on cooking times, temperatures. You know, they don't necessarily list all the ingredients in sort of the fashion we would, but they are very, very specific on how many spices you need to use. So they said we need a pennyworth of cloves, nutmeg, and mace. So I've kind of thought, my hand is right in the way there. So what I've kind of done is sort of the size of a penny's worth of nutmeg. And yeah, so there's no cooking time on this recipe, but it's a penny's worth of nutmeg and no more. Let's put that in there. The nutmeg, which I just grated up, so it should be nice and get that distributed. Honestly, the mace and the nutmeg and the cloves do make me think of Christmas, which I don't generally have very good memories of. Now smells like cheese with a hint of some spices. There we go. Currants have all gone straight to the bottom. The next ingredient, sort of, I suppose, well, at this point it's not very cake-like, so if I put this in pie case, it would just sort of slop and wouldn't get solid. What we need is some sugar. You gonna focus in on that or not, or what? Okay, so this is 1/2 pound of good sugar. None of your fake sugars here, only good sugar. And I'm hoping that British sugar have good sugar. Look at that dissolve. Oh, oh, it's already changing the mixture. Let me get back after doing some mixing. And there's one final main ingredient. We have rose water. So, not content with some flavour, we're going to have all the flavour. We need 1/4 pint of rose water, which is just about this entire bottle. And then we must mingle it well together. You can see all the rubbish off the frame. Let me hide some of that. That's what I need in this. Oh, more liquid. Look what it's done. Gross. Oh, that's pungent. Oh. I don't like what that's done to it. No, sir. Right, let's... Oh, it smells almost alcoholic, the strength of that. At least it's not splitting again. So I'm going to mingle it well together, and then we'll move on to the stage of putting it into pastry to get ready to bake. I just got my mouth full of pastry. So the next stage is, after you've mingled it well together, is to put it into puff paste. So I wouldn't have used puff pastry for a cheesecake base myself, but considering the expensive ingredients and the effort and all the dairy products that have gone into this, I mean, I guess you want to show off that your servants can make something that's complicated and difficult as puff pastry. There you go. So I'm going to fill this dish with that. I think there's substantially more than that will fit in this. The puff pastry is set to this tin because my baking sheet didn't work. Great work, Jess. Wonderful. Love it. So I'm just going to fill it up and see what happens. Because there's no cooking time, no oven time, because why would there be? Life's a game. Life's a gamble. I've just put the oven on for what I would do for a baked cheesecake, and then hopefully that works. I mean, there's going to be an awful lot of cheesecake for dinner. Oh, that's just the biggest cheese lump right there. How many people would you be feeding with this? But then it's not about whether it's a reasonable amount of food to give someone. It's about displaying how wealthy you are, how well connected you are, the talent of your help, or if you were sort of... This is presuming that this is a book that has been bought for a noble woman to give to her household servants. You might be a middle-class woman looking to show off and expand your own techniques. Sort of be impressive in that way. This is all... I've put in like barely any of this mixture, and this is already quite full. This is what me and John are eating from now on. Just lots and lots of early modern cheesecake. Which is just like, well, I suppose it's not too bad for us. But I can't even give it away. My family are vegan, so like, if I show up with this, they're going to be like... Alright, it's flooded. Dang it! I've used just about half of this mixture. Yeah, they had reusable pastry cases then. They were called coffin cases, and you just sort of bake them and put things in them, and then you eat out of it, and then you just reuse it over and over again. Okay, that's flooded the side, which is decidedly annoying, but let's clean up the side of that. Let's give you a closer look. Ignoring the side that has flooded, let me just cover that up. That is what my early modern cheesecake is looking like. It's not looking too bad, actually. I mean, I had to cut the sides off because the puff pastry exploded, but it looks reasonably cheesecake-like. So I'm going to give it about 35-40 minutes at 180. See what happens. Hopefully it sets. Hopefully those lumps of cheese melt. Who knows? It's a constant adventure in this house. Okay, so this is it. Sort of fresh out the oven as of like a minute ago. You can see. It's got, you can just about see, it's got good wobble in the middle, which is what I like to see in a cheesecake. It's actually held up how much was in it quite well. I got quite upset about half an hour ago because a bunch of it flooded out. And I was like, no, everything I try is a failure. But actually, that's a good solid amount that's still left in there. It looks actually pretty alright. It does look like cheesecake. I'm happy with that. I'm going to leave it to cool and set a little bit more. But yeah, it's looking good. The rose water is extremely overpowering. I was just going to say, I'm not used to using a lot of rose water. Why are you focusing in on that side? That's not a face camera. It's like an egg. Yeah, I'm just not used to using a lot of rose water in my cooking, so it's, I'm not, the smell is something, but yeah, just look how lovely that is. And when that's cooled down, we will taste it. It is now sometime later, and the cake did not set properly. I also don't think it's cooked particularly great in the middle. I should have left it in longer. John isn't happy. I don't know why. The whole house smells of rose water. I think that's the problem, and he's looking concerned. The pastry's fine.
I also remember the last thing you fed me.
The pastry's fine. Also, the cheese curds didn't melt. There's lumps of cheese in this.
Are they both for you?
Just spat out pastry everywhere. Well, that's a big lump of curd.
Is that just curd I've got there?
Yeah.
Cheers.
I don't like the rose.
Oh! No! Not today! I swallowed some. Oh, I just drank straight cordial.
The rose water is unpleasant. I think without the rose it would have been fine.
Nope.
What was wrong? Was it the currants?
I think it was the whole thing. I was very nearly sick.
Oh, baby.
Ooh, I did not like that. Oh. I don't understand how that was worse than that tart you did.
All that effort. I think the rose water doesn't work. Like, it's too much rose water for a start, for what it is. It's very overpowering. You should have had more nutmeg in it. But also, you just kind of end up with like a sweet cheesecakey lump of cheese in like a batter.
It's not good.
And the currants are just sort of there. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But there's so much cheesecake batter left.
It's like an entire bowl left.
It was a lot. It was a lot. It's amazing how much flavour profiles have changed. Because that does not work.
No.
You need to really... if I'd got like a more liquidy cheese curd, it probably would have at least been more cheesecake-like.
Or you need to hate yourself more.
Yeah. 1/4 pint of rose water is too much. So, definitely I think if you're trying out any early modern recipes, this is not one to go for.
Just buy your own cheesecake.
So, goodbye from us. Enjoy responsibly your cheesecake.